What's up, everybody? Back for another Honkai Star Rail video. Your boy is almost done being sick, so I probably won't cough in this video, thankfully. And I'm also done, or almost done. I have like 2 more days left of the old overnight thing. So hopefully daily uploads are gonna start happening again. Cause good lord, bro, between having my whole PC have to be reset, I won't go into too much detail. Just know, unfortunately, I had to get rid of everything, so if you notice the thumbnails are a little bit different, just know I pretty much had to start from scratch. Even my portable hard drive I had, because I used to have it for my Xbox back in the day, and I just reformatted it, right? Yeah, it doesn't work anymore. So I literally had nothing. It was crazy. So I was sick with a cough. I had my PC reset. I had like no time, so I was like, dude, it is what it is. But hey, we're back. Hopefully YouTube gracefully allows us back in. But anyway, we are here to talk about the banners. Now, I'm doing this a bit earlier than I normally do, just in case in the next couple of days I'm not able to get a video up every day. So I figured might as well knock this out now when I have the most time today or tomorrow. Tomorrow's video will be something else, right? And that is obviously, should you summon, what you should summon on, should you skip, should you summon now, all that good stuff. So let's quickly talk about the banners out right now. The banners out right now are probably some of the worst in Star Rail history compared to other patches. However, that is a good thing, right? Now, the reason for it is we're going to ignore Fate, right? Because Fate's been here for a while. If you wanted Fate, you summoned on it. If you still are summoning, which should be if you don't have Saber, just to have it for collection, at least in my opinion, right? You're kind of locked in on that, so it doesn't really matter what's coming next. You're locked in on this, right? So the banners out right now are Firefly, Jinglu, and Blade. Now, Blade is a character you can lose your 50-50 to at any point, so him kind of being here is just like whatever. You can just get him whenever, right? Unless you don't have him and really want him, which I actually do, but I'll lose 50-50 at some point and get him, right? Jinglu, well, a good DPS. She's not the best DPS, not saying so she's definitely not a must-have. And then Firefly is definitely aged out quite a bit at this point, right? Unless you have dupes. So there's nothing really enticing to summon on right now, right? So you have a half a patch of saving, like easy saving, especially if you're free to play, no reason to summon, right? And that is kind of the case going up into the next couple banners, right? So first things first, this is how I'm going to have it from now on, potentially, right? Where it's must get, right? These are going to be characters that are like characters like Tribute, where it's like you have to be actually insane to skip them because of how valuable they can be to your account. High value characters, these are characters who are very strong. These are going to be characters like Phanon, Castoris, right? Good. These are characters that you can get, and they'll probably last a few updates before they start showing a little bit of signs, but they're still usable. Niche characters, while not inherently bad, are going to be characters that really just will only work with like one team, or they need certain other partners to really go crazy. And then bad is just characters that don't summon for, please. That's like, it'd be like the equivalent of summoning for Jabard, right? You like Jabard, yikes, don't summon for it, right? So first things first, the part 1 banners are Hyceans and Kafka, right? Now, I want to put them in high value, right? Both of them, right? Because Dot is extremely good. However, we have to talk about the glaring issue, and that is not a lot of people are going to have Dot, right? Now, comparing Dot to, let's just say Saber, right? Saber's a good example. While Saber definitely has allies she wants more than other characters like Sunday for like energy regen and like Tingyan and whatnot, right? Saber still works with Robin. She still works with Tribby. She still works with Ron May. She still works with like Aventurine. Obviously she wants Ho-Ho, but Aventurine still works, right? It is a character who is just a crit rate, crit damage, DPS at the end of the day, so you can get away with using these other supports. For Dot, it doesn't quite work like that, right? You could use the supports and get away with it a lot easier, right? But Dot characters really just want other Dot allies with them, and then obviously for running sustain lists, then you'd have a support. Ruin May is a good one because it delays their actions, so you can get some more dots off and some speed. Woho is a good sustain because attack and then energy, right? But they really shine when having other Dot allies. So because of that, I'm going to put them in good. Not saying they aren't really, really strong, but they are very limited in their team buildings because you basically want to have, like, your team is basically going to look like this. Where is Black Swan? It's going to look like this. these three and then plus one more, depending on what you want, right? Now, obviously, you can still run it without Black Swan. Running it without Kafka is going to be a bit rough because these are the two powerhouses of the team. But most dot teams are going to consist of those three characters and then one more depending on who you want. So the team flexibility is a lot less. Plus, dot has been kind of bad for a while. So a lot of people either didn't see the point investing in it, maybe you didn't summon at all, whatever it may be. I feel like a lot of accounts just don't have a lot of dot characters. Maybe they'll have Kafka, right? Because Kafka is a pretty popular character. But because of the kind of stricter team buildings for this team, I'm going to have to put them in good just because more than likely, right? Obviously, this is a case by case basis. If you are summoning for Hycealans, there is a possibility you're going to have to summon for Kafka as well. And while the team is very strong, that's a ton of Jades compared to a character like, let's say, Tribby, who you can just summon for. If you're using Castoris, it works. If you're using Phanon, they work. If you're using Anaxa, it works. Herda, it works. Fei Zhao, it works. Like, Tribby just works with a lot of teams, and you can kind of just slot her in versus, the dot team where you need very, very specific allies. So that is going to put them down a peg for me. Unfortunately, I do think they are high value characters. They are very strong. The team is disgusting now, but unfortunately, because of how strict they are and the overall amount of players who are going to have to summon for the entire team, I'm going to have to put them down to good. Hey, it's just how I think. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. I just got to put them down to good, right? I got to think about, what most people would have, how much Jades, because getting two characters, right? Kafka doesn't need her Lycon anymore, right? But getting Kafka, Hycealans, and potentially her Lycon all in one patch is a bit rough to ask for free to play, especially after the last patch we just had. You probably don't have too many Jades, so considering that, it's a tall ask to ask you to summon that much, right? But let's go over to the part 2 characters, which are Silverwolf and Ceridra. So Silverwolf is a very, very good character, and I'm torn on high value or and good because most people summon for supports, right? And she kind of fills a support slot. I'm gonna put her in high value just because she is very strong. I've not used her buff version a ton, but what I have seen of it is incredibly good. The AoE defense lower, the guaranteed weakness application on whoever's in your slot 1. Silverwolf can also do a decent amount of damage, right? People with dupes have had the DPS Silverwolf. She goes crazy. I think Silverwolf is in a very good spot at the moment. I think she's definitely one of the higher value units of this patch. I think if we compared her to a bunch of other units, right? Like if I had to pair her up against a bunch of the supports, I think she'd go down on the list. But if we are only taking into consideration if you wanted to summon on one character, I think Silverwolf is easily the best one to summon on, right? However, do keep in mind we are having March and Dawning. You can actually see them down here coming up next. We do not know what March does. We just know March is Remembrance, which could literally mean anything. It could mean Remembrance DPS, could mean Remembrance Healer, Remembrance Support, right? We have a ton of variety in like Remembrance MC being a support. Almost, I don't know who I was thinking of, but Aglia being a DPS, Castoris being a DPS. Good old little Ika being like a DPS slash the healer, right, with Ician, right? So it really is just a 50-50 on what the hell she's actually going to be. So I would advise if you did want to summon and you're thinking of getting Silverwolf for a sort of supportive role, wait until we see what March does, because March just could be like the next Broke support for all we know. It really is a gamble. And then Donhang is preservation, so if you need a good sustain, Donhang could potentially be an option, so do keep that in mind right before you summon. But Silverwolf definitely has the highest value at the moment of this banner. And then we have Ceridra, right? Now a lot of people are probably going to jump me for this. I think she's rather niche, right? Her two main allies are going to be Phanon, which she's going to make Phanon absolutely disgusting. Having a second meteor off rip is meaning you're just pretty much just going to insta-kill bosses in one go, right? Which is crazy. However, her being limited to skills is kind of like, and she's not doing a ton of supporting like some of the other characters. Like Sunday just does like an absurd amount. Tribby just does an absurd amount. Ceridra just kind of, is really just there for the skill. I know she has a few other things, but not every character wants to spam their skill. It's really just Phanon and Anaxa, which is going to limit the team she really wants to thrive on the most. Anaxa doesn't like need her if you're running Anaxa with like Herda, right? That team still works. Obviously, the team is going to be absolutely disgusting if you're running main DPS Anaxa with Stradra. Same thing with Phanon, but she's not as universal as the other supports, unfortunately, right? I'm sure you could get some value out of the skill on other characters, but it's not going to be nearly as enough as the other two. So I really do think she is a niche pick, but for the niche she does fulfill, she's absolutely disgusting. And if you are a huge Phanon fan, your Phanon's really built, and you get this character, he will be absolutely absurd. So do keep that in mind. She is just very, very, very specific on who she wants. Same thing, kind of like the dot characters, right? But since she's a support, I'm giving her a little less slack for it, just because most of the time you would want a supporting character who is more universal. Funny enough, like Silverwolf. Silverwolf you can slap on a ton of different teams and she works. Saridra, not so much. So she is getting a few points knocked down because of that. But I do think all these characters are extremely, extremely good, but they do have their downsides. As always, I would highly, highly recommend if you're going to summon on the part 2 banners, which are Silverwolf and Saridra, that you wait until you see what Donhang and March do, just in case you're in need of like a new sustain or whatever, and then Donhang's like the most absurdly broken thing on the planet, or March is like the best support in the game by far. You must summon for her, and then you blow all your Jades on Silverwolf, and then you're like, oh, that's awkward, right? Not much you can do about the first characters, but it's really simple. Are you going to use dot characters? Yes or no? If no, you do not need to summon. So most players, right, especially because Silverwolf and Kafka are really old characters, you might already have them. This is looking like a pretty easy skip again, which is actually really nice. I'm very glad that we don't have like 7 characters to potentially think about summoning for this time. It's just 4. 2 of them are old reruns, and 2 obviously are very niche in what teams they can be on, so it's a pretty easy answer for most players, right? Other than that, though, that'll be it for the video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think certain characters should be higher valued wise? Are you going to summon? Are you going to skip? Are you going to wait to see what Donhang and March do? Let me know in the comments, and of course I will catch y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.